So here we go, guys. Here is that epic clutch that hatched out in mid-December. Pastel Enchi Clown female paired to Ironman Lite, which is Leopard Enchi Orange Dream Clown.
Alright, let's start off our discussion on Clown Headstamps and the Ironman project before we ID some of these snakes. Let's go right back to the starting point. This is a basic clown, no other genes in there, just the recessive clown. And what are the features of clown? Well, a clown has a very strong dorsal stripe, and for me the stronger and more continuous the better, and you will see that feature in all of our clowns. It has alien heads which are teardrops and drip down the belly here, hence the name clown. These are like the teardrops on a clown's face at the circus supposedly, and the more regular those teardrops the better. So I've selected a fantastic example of a base clown here. Very, very regular alien heads and a very strong and continuous dorsal stripe. That's how I want my clowns to be. Now, a clown head stamp. Why are clown head stamps so important and so distinctive? Well, if this guy allows us to look at his head, you will see that the head is basically a continuation of the pattern of the body. It does not have the classic triangular head stamp of a normal ball python. So the head stamp on a clown can tell you a great deal about the genes that are in it just from the head stamp, because it's a continuation of the body pattern. And clowns have no eye stripes. Let me repeat that for you. Clowns have no eye stripes. So there is our basic clown, and what we want to do is to work with pattern, with colour and with the dorsal stripe to produce the look that we want. And it's fairly common these days to look for busy pattern clowns, and I will talk about busy pattern clowns at the end of this video, but for our purposes, an Ironman, we're going to work with the dorsal stripe. We actually want to make these clowns as reduced as we possibly can. We want to remove all these beautiful regular alien heads, and we want to enhance this dorsal as much as we possibly can. So that's what we're going to be doing: enhancing colour, enhancing pattern, or enhancing the dorsal stripe. Now, if we look again at the head stamp, you can see here the head stamp is a continuation of the body pattern. It's a very similar colour to the body pattern. It just continues on up over the head. So what would happen if we took our clown and we added pastel to it? Pastel is a very common colour enhancer, and you can see that we still have the fantastic regular alien heads of the normal clown, but we have a much brighter snake. It's much yellower. So we've taken our basic snake and enhanced it with yellows, but pastel wipes out the head stamp. The pattern no longer continues up the head. It's almost like somebody's taken an eraser to the pattern on the head, and all we have left are just the dots. Pastel always does this to clown head stamps. Now, it doesn't remove the head stamp completely, and even with pastel in the mix, we can actually get a very good indication of what the genes are that are at play, if you remember that the dots form the framework or the outline of the original head stamp. Here is our original clown, and here is what happens when we add pastel, and you can see that we haven't done much to remove the pattern. In fact, if anything, we've made it busier, and the dorsal stripe is probably not quite so continuous, although this one still does have quite a nice dorsal stripe. But pastel characteristically removes the head stamp. So there's our basic clown with pastel added, and what we can expect when we add pastel to a clown. And we can expect not much change in the pattern. We can expect perhaps some lightening, and we can expect the head stamp to be removed, leaving just the outline. Alright, let's start to work with our basic clown, and we're going to add a gene to remove some of these alien heads and strengthen the dorsal stripe, and that gene would be Leopard. This is a Leopard clown. The only addition is Leopard, and can you see what we've done here? Leopard has strongly enhanced the dorsal stripe. We haven't completely removed all the dots here. We still get dots down the flanks of the animal, and characteristically with Leopard, of course, they all line up. We still do get a dorsal stripe that drips. It isn't just a complete railway track line along the dorsal. We still get drips down the side, and of course a lot of these black dots. If we look at the head stamp, this is a characteristic Leopard clown head stamp. It's very heavy at the front of the head. Characteristically, there is a moustache, but there isn't much at the back of the head here. Characteristically, Leopard, the stripe, the dorsal stripe of the Leopard continues down the head stamp, and we end up with a heavy head stamp, but very front-ended. It's very prominent on the nose of the snake and not very prominent on the back end of the head stamp, back here. Okay, so if you remember, Leopard gives an anvil head stamp, and it's front heavy with a moustache. Again, no eye stripes, guys. Clowns do not have eye stripes. So Leopard is one gene that we can add, and I want you to remember this look. The dorsal is very dark, it's very crisp, but it's quite broad. It's not narrow and tight, it's quite a broad back stripe or dorsal stripe, and it does still have drips down the side. Let's have a look at another example where we've taken just Leopard and put it into clown, and you can see again exactly the same features. A very broad, strong dorsal stripe. We've removed all the alien heads, but we still get a lot of dots down the flanks, and those dots do line up. You can see 2 rows of dots here, very typical of Leopard. This boy is going into shed, but again, characteristic head stamp. The dorsal stripe continues down the head and is especially prominent at the front of the head. We get an anvil shaped head stamp, which is very prominent at the front, and we get a strong moustache on the snake. Another example of Leopard. I think you're getting the picture now. We've taken away all those alien heads but left some dots, and we've strengthened up that dorsal stripe but left it very wide. Another gene that we can add to clown, and this time very effectively removing all the side pattern, is Enchi. Enchi typically in any snake will remove the keyholes from the alien heads, but in a clown it removes the alien heads almost completely. Now the difference between this and Leopard is that the dorsal stripe is actually quite jagged. You see how it's zigzaggy? Enchi tries to put these vertical bands into a snake which has a very strong dorsal stripe, so we tend to end up with a very jagged dorsal, but we've managed to remove all those dots and alien heads. If we look at the head stamp, you see the dorsal stripe continues right across the head, and we have this very characteristic anvil shaped head stamp, which is particularly heavy and noticeable at the back of the head, whereas Leopard is more noticeable at the front. So Enchi is going to be a very nice gene in combination with Leopard to enhance that dorsal stripe and remove all those alien heads, clean up the clown and just leave the dorsal stripe. So that's Enchi, and this is actually a very reduced pattern Enchi. Not many Enchis are reduced as this one, which is why I still have this one in my collection. Many people would say this is Enchi blade, and one of the characteristics that people look for in blade is a stripe under the cloaca. Oops, no stripe. Not blade. There is no blade in this snake, although everybody that looks at it says it's Enchi blade. It's not. It's just a reduced Enchi Clown. So what happens when we put pastel into an Enchi Clown? Let's take a look at what pastel does to an Enchi Clown. We can expect a busier pattern, a brighter snake, and the head stamp rubbed out with an eraser. So let's take a look. Alright guys, Pastel Enchi Clown, and this is a more typical Enchi type appearance. It's much more jagged than the male that we just looked at. This is actually the female that we used, and she's a very special female, and I'll show you why in just a minute, but you can already see that she is ultra bright. She does have some of the pastel dirtiness, and actually when she's building and about to ovulate, most of this cleans up and she goes a really bright yellow colour. Her offspring are absolutely superb. So let's have a look at the characteristics. We've wiped out all the alien heads. We've cleaned up the sides pretty strongly. We have a jagged and broken dorsal stripe, and we still get these drips down the flanks. If we have a look at the head stamp, and this girl has a fantastic head stamp. See how bright her head is there? This is a classic Pastel Enchi head stamp. What we've done, if I can get these two snakes to cooperate, what we've done is taken that anvil shaped Enchi head stamp, taken an eraser to it, and we've just left the outline of the head stamp.
I've included some footage which I shot quite a while ago of the Enchi Clown male, so that you can see very clearly how Enchi takes away all of the alien heads, takes away all of the keyholes, but leaves a few bands plus a very jagged dorsal stripe, not a continuous dorsal stripe like the Leopard Clown does. There's a good shot of the head stamp. Very clear Enchi Clown head stamp. And here is the female Pastel Enchi Clown, comparing head stamps with the straight Enchi Clown male. And this Pastel Enchi Clown female is the mother of this clutch that we just produced.
This head stamp is typically what happens when you add pastel to an Enchi. So mum for this clutch is a Pastel Enchi. You can see the pattern is a little bit busier. She's much brighter, very, very jagged snake, but we've managed to remove all of those alien heads. So I'm thinking that a combination of Leopard and Enchi together is going to do the job for us. It's going to remove all of those alien heads. It's going to clean up the sides of the snake. It's going to make a really nice tight dorsal stripe with clean sides. So let's have a look at what happens when you mix Leopard and Enchi. And bingo guys, here we go. A really, really tight dorsal stripe, much tighter than either of the two snakes underneath. We still have some of the leopard dots here. They're still obvious. We haven't managed to clean those up completely, and occasionally we do get a glitch in the dorsal stripe with drips down, but we have managed to pretty much remove all of the alien heads and tighten up that dorsal stripe. And if we look at the head stamp, you can see a combination of leopard and Enchi. In the head stamp we have an anvil shape, heavy at the front and heavy at the back. This is both Enchi and leopard working together. No eye stripes, and a really strong moustache. So this is Leopard Enchi, but it's not just Leopard Enchi. Can you see the difference in the colour? The scales, the edges of the scales have been highlighted, and the belly is a quite strong orange colour. This guy here is Ironman Lite. He is Leopard Enchi Orange Dream, no pastel. You can see he still has the filled in head stamp. We haven't rubbed out the head stamp, but we've added Orange Dream. And what Orange Dream does for this combo in comparison to the Leopard is it has tightened up the dorsal stripe. Orange Dream is not just a gene that makes the snake more orange, it's actually a pattern reducer, and you can see how it's tightened up the dorsal stripe here and made it much thinner than either the Enchi, which is a jagged dorsal stripe, or the Leopard, which is a broad railway track dorsal stripe but quite wide with drips down the side. We've managed to clean all of that up, and we've combined the head stamp here into an anvil which is heavy at the front and heavy at the back. Typical Leopard Enchi head stamp. So this is actually Ironman Lite, and he is the father for this clutch that we're going to ID. And this girl underneath, if I just remove the Enchi Clown. So this is actually the pairing for this clutch. This is Ironman Lite with this really nice bright Enchi, Pastel Enchi Clown female. So here's Ironman Lite. Now I'm going to show you what happens when we put Pastel into this combination. Actually, the snake I'm about to show you is Pepper Potts, and she is Leopard Enchi Orange Dream Yellowbelly with Pastel. So there's extra Yellowbelly in this snake, but also it's Pastel. Oh wow, whammo. This is the effect of both Yellowbelly and Pastel. This girl is much brighter, much brighter. But if we have a look at the head stamp, you can see that it's the same Leopard Enchi head stamp, heavy at the front and heavy at the back, but it's been rubbed out with an eraser and just the outline of the head stamp is left. We can still see that this is a typical Leopard Enchi, even with Pastel. If she let me show you, no eye stripes. She still has the moustache of Leopard. She also has white lips. So we have Ironman Lite underneath, and we have Pepper Potts. Pepper Potts has the addition of Pastel, so she has the wiped out head stamp, but she is still Leopard Enchi, and you can see the very tight dorsal stripe, and we've removed all the alien heads and left just a few dots. You can see the Orange Dream in the dots. The dots are quite orange. Pastel wipes out any belly markers. Slight yellowish tinge, but otherwise a clean belly. So this is Generation 1 Ironman, this is Ironman Lite, and this is Pepper Potts with the addition of Pastel. But you can see that Leopard and Enchi combined are both working to wipe out the side pattern, take away all of those alien heads, produce a really strong dorsal stripe with minimal dripping down the sides. An Orange Dream tightens all of that up and makes the snake even brighter still. I think we're on to a winner here. Alright, so far I haven't talked much about Orange Dream and what we can expect Orange Dream to do for us in these combos. This is a straight Orange Dream female. Again, a typical ball python head stamp, but you can see the slightly orangey colour to that head stamp. There's a very small dot in the centre of the head, and that's going to show up again in our clowns with Orange Dream. But that dot acts as a sort of black hole that draws in and tightens up the head stamp, so we can expect to see really tight head stamps from Orange Dream. And also it increases the contrast, And so where we have pastel in our orange dreams, we are going to see the outline or the dots of that head stamp that are left behind when pastel has wiped out the head stamp. Those dots and dashes on the head are going to be much darker, much clearer and easier to see when we have Orange Dream in the combo. Another feature of Orange Dream which many people miss or forget is that Orange Dream is actually a very strong pattern enhancer. It's a pattern reducer. It increases the contrast and it is extremely banded. In a good example, you will think that you're looking at an Enchi. And in fact, a dose of Orange Dream in these combos acts in a very similar way to Enchi. It will produce a banded snake. In combination with Enchi and with Leopard, it reacts very strongly to produce a really banded snake. And many people will pick out Orange Dream based on colour, and in Enchi combos they'll pick the Orange Dream based on colour, but they'll start calling the snake a Super Enchi, and it's not. It's just Enchi Orange Dream. They've picked the Orange Dream, but they forget that Orange Dream and Enchi work together to produce something that looks a little bit like a Super Enchi. Let me show you that. Okay, this is actually a Leopard Orange Dream Yellowbelly. You can expect a similar effect when you mix with Enchi. This one ate yesterday, so I have to be quite gentle with her. But let's just pick her up here. She has the Leopard head stamp, very heavy at the front rather than the Enchi head stamp, which would be heavy at the back. So this is definitely Leopard. Can you see how Orange Dream has enhanced that pattern and produced that wicked striping? And we're going to see that effect in these clowns. That's an effect that we are looking for in our reduced pattern clowns. That's something that we want. This girl has a ringer here on the base of her tail, but again you can see all those extensions and the way that Orange Dream has reacted so strongly here with Leopard. Look at those train tracks. Oh, okay, she's hidden again and doesn't want to come out. So that is an effect that we are definitely looking for in our clown combos. And don't be fooled when you see patterns like this and you think it's Super Enchi. It's not. That's the influence of Orange Dream, and it works fantastically with either Enchi or Leopard Enchi. What other gene could we possibly use in clown to help us in this project? Well, we can use a brightening gene as well. This is fire. This is a fire clown, a straight fire clown. No pastel in this. And you can see again, we haven't done a great deal to affect the pattern. We have amalgamated some of the alien heads, but not completely. So it's going a little way towards what we want to do with these clowns. The dorsal stripe is very Enchi-like actually. It's jagged, it's broken, and contains these drips down the side. But fire has a very distinctive head stamp, and it has these ears or widening at the back of the head here, very characteristic of fire. So the head stamp is quite distinct and quite different to what we've seen before. Now, we do not have fire in any of this new Ironman clutch. Fire is one of the genes that we want to add, but I wanted to show you this for completeness, because what happens if I take this fantastic female Pastel Enchi Clown and mix fire in with it? You can see that the pattern is not actually very distinctive. This fire and this Enchi look quite similar. The head stamp's a little bit different, but this is definitely a brighter snake. So what happens when we mix the two? Just have a look at Mum. And the head stamp on Mum has been wiped out by Pastel. So let me move this fire out of the way, and you can see how bright it is, but how similar the pattern actually is to Enchi. Let's combine the two and make a Firefly Enchi. So this is Pastel, Fire and Enchi, and you can see the pattern has cleaned up enormously. The whole snake is much cleaner and much brighter than either of the two underneath. And if we have a look at the head stamp, you can see that the head stamp is the same outline of the Pastel Enchi, with a little bit of added weight at the back of the head, which Fire does. So this is a superb, clean Firefly Enchi produced from this female. So you can see how excited I am about this Generation 2 Ironman from this very special female. So Firefly Enchi, and wow, look at that guys, it's got a stripe behind the cloaca. It must be blade. No, it's not blade. The stripe behind the cloaca is not definitive of any gene, trust me. It is not a marker for blade. Some of my clowns have it, some of my clowns don't, and I don't have blade in my collection. So ignore that stripe underneath the tail. You're going to see some striping on some of the Ironman 2 clutch. Some of the babies have it and some of them don't. And again, no blade. Okay, so this is Fire. This is what we've done when we introduce Fire into the mix. So Fire is going to definitely be a worthwhile addition to the Ironman, but we do not have Fire in this clutch. I just wanted to show you the Fire head stamp, and I wanted to show you what Fire actually does. And you can see this male here is now putting his tail up in the air because there's two females in here with him, so we better just get him out before he gets too excited, and we'll put these two females away.
Here I've included some earlier footage of a Fire Clown. Very distinctive head stamp. You can see the jagged dorsal, broken dorsal stripe, very reminiscent actually of Enchi, but Fire leaves a busy pattern. Some of the alien heads are amalgamated, and it doesn't clean off the keyholes and alien heads like Enchi does. So here is a comparison between Fire and the Pastel Enchi Clown female that I used to produce this clutch. There are the head stamps. That is a Pastel Enchi Clown head stamp.
Okay, what about Super Enchi? We have the possibility of Super Enchis in this pairing because there's Enchi on both sides, and I haven't said anything about what we could expect from Super Enchi in these combos. This is a non-clown. It's Het for Clown, and it is another one of that female's offspring. So this girl is the mother again of the snake we're going to look at now. She is Pastel Enchi and he is Pastel Fire Super Enchi, or Firefly Super Enchi, and we were actually trying for the Firefly Super Enchi Clown. We got the het, but never mind, the quality still shines through on this boy. So if we have a look at the Enchi on mum, you can see it is still quite jagged, and we do still have some semblance of a dorsal stripe. But in the Super Enchi, that has gone completely, and all we are left with is the banding. Okay, head stamps, Pastel and Enchi. You can see the hoof-shaped head stamp, that square head stamp with the four-leafed clover. And because it's pastel, we're left with just the outline, which always leaves a cross on the head of a Pastel Enchi. There is always a cross there. The Fire gives it that arrowhead shaped head stamp, but again we're left with just the outline, and you can see it joins to a point on the tip of the nose. Typical Fire head stamp. You can see on mum the clown head stamp with no eye stripes, and the pattern of the snake actually continuing down onto the head. The het has a typical ball python head stamp, really strong eye stripes and the typical triangular head shape. So in the Super Enchis that we've just created, where we've taken away all the pattern and all the alien heads and just left a dorsal stripe, and Enchi contributes to tightening up that dorsal stripe, what you can see here is zebra striping. And what we can expect in Super Enchis is that continuous dorsal stripe to still be very tight, very condensed along the dorsal, but broken. We're going to start to see a dorsal stripe which is dots or dashes rather than a continuous dorsal stripe. Okay, so this is what Super Enchi is going to do for us in those combinations. Alright guys, do you think that we've learned enough now to be able to ID these snakes? I think we can. So let's have a bash. And immediately I'm going to separate off the snakes which have pastel. Let's let our eyes do the work and pick out the pastels. They're the bright ones. So that's this one, this one, this one, this one. This one also has the wiped out head stamp and the white lips, so this one is also pastel. So we have 5 pastels and 2 that are not pastel. Alright, can we pick out the leopards? Yes we can. The leopards are the ones that we know are going to have a very strong dorsal stripe. So that's this one, and this one. So we have 3 snakes here that are leopard and 4 snakes here that are not leopard. Can we pick out Orange Dream? Yes we can. There is a very subtle colour variation in Orange Dream that's going to help us. Orange Dream outlines the scales and gives a very dusty looking look, as well as an orangey looking look, to all of the snakes. It also makes them orange. You can see the dorsal is orange, orange, orange. So if we look at Ironman Lite again, you can see this is almost like a fishnet stocking type pattern. All the scales have been highlighted, and the scales themselves have a dark tinge and then a light outline. It's almost like we're looking through a fishing net or a fishnet stocking at that orangey colour, and you can still see the orangey colour in here, but this dusty looking feature is going to help us to identify Orange Dream in these snakes as well. So we're looking for subtle colour variations. Obviously we're looking for orange, and we're looking for this dusty looking appearance here. Okay, so if I look at that dusty looking appearance, these ones are quite clean. Quite clean. Quite clean looking. These ones have that dusty looking appearance here, just like Dad. This one is quite bright. This one, we'll come back to this in a moment. This one clearly has that dusty looking appearance. And this one also has the dusty looking appearance, but he's also very orange, so there's no doubt about what this one is. I've got 4 snakes here that have Orange Dream in them. This one, I'm not 100% certain, but we're going to look at them in detail anyway. And then I've got 3 snakes here that do not have Orange Dream in them. Alright, can we identify Enchi in these snakes? Well, here's the thing with this clutch, guys. Every single one of these snakes has got Enchi in it. This is clearly Enchi with the jagged back pattern. It has no leopard in it because leopard would make the dorsal stripe continuous, and it's not, it's still jagged. The head stamp also is quite clearly Enchi and not leopard. So that's Enchi. This one here has the head stamp, just like Mum. Has the body pattern, just like Mum. This is Pastel Enchi. You can see the jagged pattern. There's no oranges in this, so no orange dream. It's still quite bright. And this is a really nice example of a Pastel Enchi. So let's just compare to Mum. There you go. Mirror image, spitting image of Mum. Head stamps, mirror image. So this is Mum. So we have a positive ID on this one as Enchi Orange Dream. We have a positive ID on this one as Pastel Enchi. And we have a second one. This one again has a very similar head stamp to Mum, but has a much more reduced pattern. Much more reduced. So I'm saying here we have two Pastel Enchis. We have one that's quite reduced and one that's quite busy. Both Pastel Enchis, both identical head stamps. One pattern reduced and one quite busy. And then we have this one. And look at the head stamp, guys, compared to the busy head stamp of the Pastel Enchi. There's the busy head stamp with the neck stripe. There we go. This one has a reduced head stamp. And can you see how broken up that dorsal stripe is now? Still very jagged, still has some banding down the sides. This is Pastel Super Enchi. No Orange Dream, no Leopard, Pastel Super Enchi. So we've got of the non-Orange Dreams, we have Pastel Enchi, and Pastel Super Enchi. We also have this very striking Enchi Orange Dream. Okay, let's have a look at this one. This is actually the brightest of the bunch. This is clearly Leopard and Enchi. I know that it's Leopard because it has a continuous dorsal stripe. I know that it's Enchi because we've removed most of those dots from the sides of the animal. I know that it's Leopard and Enchi because we have the front end heavy part of the head stamp signifying Leopard. You see the railway tracks here at the front of the head, that's Leopard, and the back of the head, that's Enchi, and Pastel's left just the outline. So Pastel Enchi, Leopard, Pastel Enchi. Does this have Orange Dream? If we look at the dots, they're actually quite silvery, but if we look at the dorsal, there is actually an orange tinge to the dorsal, and in particular, remember I said that Orange Dream tightens everything up and increases the banding. Look at that dorsal stripe at the back end of the snake. Typically Orange Dream works wonders at the back end of the snake. That dorsal stripe is really tight, so that does imply that this does have Orange Dream. There is absolutely nothing in the belly markers because of Pastel that will help us with that. And look at that. That is, again, that tail marker that I said is often associated with blade. No blade in this snake. So this is a minimum of Pastel Leopard Enchi, and I believe this one also has Orange Dream. So let's have a look at this one. Alright, where have we seen this broken pattern before? Pastel Super Enchi, Leopard Super Enchi. There's no pastel in this one, so we don't have the washed out head stamp, we still have the solid head stamp, but the pattern is extremely broken. So this snake here has no pastel, and we've added leopard to a Super Enchi, and we get exactly what we would have expected. So this is Leopard Super Enchi, and very clearly Orange Dream. You can see how Orange Dream has tightened up that head stamp. So we have Leopard Super Enchi Orange Dream, which leaves one more to identify. Clearly Leopard Enchi. The head stamp is pastel, it's washed out the head stamp, but you can see how we still have a front end heavy head stamp, not so much towards the rear, because the pattern on this one has been broken up, and we know what breaks up the pattern on these, and that is the Super Enchi version. So this is Pastel Leopard Super Enchi. Nice oranges, nice tight dorsal stripe. Pastel Super Enchi Orange Dream. This is the full house. This one is actually the pick of the clutch. Now let's come back to this one, the brighter one. Look at the difference in the head stamps. This one we're saying is Pastel Leopard Enchi, and we're not sure if it has Orange Dream. This one is Pastel Leopard Super Enchi with Orange Dream. The head stamp on this one is very, very heavy, high contrast. The lines that have been left behind are very dark. So if this is Pastel Leopard Enchi Orange Dream, so let's compare to Pepper Potts. So here is Pepper Potts, and bingo, very, very similar head stamps, very, very similar body pattern. Is going into shed and is getting very hissy, but when she was younger, you can see how they are now slightly orange, those dots, but some of them were actually quite silver when she was young, just like this one. So I do believe this one does have Orange Dream, but it might not, and I'll have to wait until these dots here colour up. But because of the pattern reduction and the tightness of the dorsal stripe, I'm going to say that yes, this does have Orange Dream. This is missing the Yellowbelly from Pepper Potts. So let's review those again one at a time. Pastel Enchi, like Mum. A slightly more reduced Pastel Enchi, like Mum. A Pastel Super Enchi. This one is nice, I like this one. An Orange Dream Enchi. And I guess the iconic snake from this clutch is this guy with the fantastic head stamp. So this is Leopard Super Enchi Orange Dream. No pastel in this one, and hence it's quite dark on the head stamp. We still get the full head stamp. So this is the classic one from the clutch. This is the Super Ironman Gen 2 Ironman, if you like, or Ironman Lite. We're missing the Yellowbelly, don't forget, from these. So this one is Leopard, Super Enchi, Orange Dream. Add Pastel to that. Pastel, Leopard, Super Enchi, Orange Dream, I believe. And then actually the cleanest and the brightest from the bunch, this is Pastel Leopard Enchi, and I believe this is also Orange Dream because of the tightness and the blackness of the dorsal stripe at the back end here, but I could be mistaken on that one. But this is actually for me the cleanest of all the snakes from this bunch. This is Pastel Leopard Enchi Orange Dream, I'm gonna say. So there we go guys, 7 snakes all ID'd on the basis of pattern and head stamp, and I think you'll see that we are probably 99% certain of what all these snakes are, even though it looks quite complicated. I don't think it is. So there you go, we've identified Enchi, Leopard, Orange Dream and Pastel in all of these snakes fairly easily. Obviously, as they grow and start to colour up and have their first meals, that may change a little bit, but I do not think that I'm going to change my IDs, other than possibly this one here, the bright one. Is that actually Orange Dream, or does it not have Orange Dream? So we've either got 3 or 4 Orange Dreams, and we've got 3 snakes that do not have Orange Dream. We've got the 2 Pastel Enchis like Mum and a Pastel Super Enchi. Which ones am I going to keep? Obviously the ones with Orange Dream. So that's 3 or 4 of these, and the sex ratio is a good 2. We have in the Orange Dreams, if those 4 are Orange Dreams, we have 2 females and 2 males. The Pastel Enchis without Orange Dream are all males. So we are male heavy, but I'm not too worried about that because there are 2 superb females in this clutch. So there we go, Gen 2 Ironman. I am so happy with this clutch. This is absolutely awesome. All these snakes have the right brand of pastel in them. They are all super clean, super bright, and I expect they're going to stay that way right into adulthood. So there's an opportunity here for anyone looking for that brand of pastel in these Pastel Enchis. These will not be staying. There's an opportunity here for someone to pick up that awesome line of Pastel Enchi just like Mum. You can even get it in Super Enchi form, thus guaranteeing that all of the offspring are going to be Enchi. Awesome clutch. Now guys, because this was an Enchi to Enchi pairing, everything in this clutch is Enchi, and we got 3 Super Enchis. That is much closer to an Enchi to Super Enchi pairing. We should not really have got what we got from this clutch. So I did go back and check all the previous clutches from the Pastel Enchi female, and she has produced some non-Enchis. So she is not Super Enchi. The male is just Leopard Enchi Orange Dream. This is his first clutch, and I am not seeing any indication of Super Enchi in this guy. I will check with ARP, but he's going to tell me no, it's just Enchi. It is not Super Enchi. So I guess we were just extremely lucky on the odds with that clutch. This guy is going to father some more clutches for me, so we will be able to establish that in the future. We know it's not the female that's Super Enchi. Is this guy here actually Super Enchi? We'll find out in due course, but at the moment it doesn't look like he is. I'm not seeing any characteristics that would indicate that this guy is Super Enchi, other than that head stamp. That head stamp is identical to this head stamp, and clearly this is Super Enchi, but you can see the difference. A much more broken dorsal stripe as opposed to the continuous dorsal stripe in Dad, but I'm quite suspicious of that head stamp. So we'll find out in due course whether Dad is actually Super Enchi. I don't think so.